Hello, my most amazing artists. Today we're going to be using iPads to take a selfie. Yes, that's right, we are learning the art of the selfie. This is going to help us create our self-portraits. When you're taking a selfie, you want to make sure not to take it the long way. You want to take it the portrait way, which is the way where the screen is vertical. You also want to make sure not to be too small and not to be too big. You want to just be just right. That means that your head, your neck, and your shoulders are all in that photo frame filling the screen. If you would like to include your fingers or hands in it, just make sure you're up for the challenge because you will be drawing them. Now, after I pick one good photo that I'm happy with, I'm going to click Edit on that photo. When I hit Edit, I'm going to change the photo to the black and white mono filter. That means monochromatic, meaning one color. So it's going to be a lot easier for me to find the lines, and that way I'll be able to trace it with my clear paper over top. We are using transparent paper to trace over top of our selfies to find the contour lines. We will be using Sharpies to trace onto that paper. Make sure you're using the thick Sharpie, not the ultra fine one. That won't work on this paper very well. I wrote my name and class code on the white paper underneath my transparent paper. I'm not going to write it on my transparent paper yet. When I hold my paper on the iPad to trace, I'm going to line up the bottom left corner with the bottom left of my iPad screen. You could choose the bottom right if you'd like to, but no matter where you hold it, it's got to be on the bottom so it lines up with that screen. If you were to put it in the middle, you would be a floating head and have to do a lot more work to draw the rest of your body in. So please make sure you line it up in that corner. That way you're able to clip it so it doesn't move on you while you're tracing. It's going to stay in place by clipping it to the iPad carefully near the top, maybe somewhere where it's not clipping over top of your face. Now, when you're tracing on top of the screen, you're going to want to make sure that you don't get Sharpie on the iPad screen and also that the screen doesn't move on you. You'll notice that I'm holding down my screen with 2 fingers as I trace with my other hand and my other fingers because the screen does tend to move on you and it'll exit out quickly if you're not holding it down at the same time. When I'm tracing over my lines, I'm only tracing over what's called the contour lines of my face. Those are just the most important features, such as my eyebrows, my eyes, my nose, my mouth, and my hairline. Then I'm going to trace my neck, maybe a certain detail like a necklace, my shirt or collar line, and my shoulders. Then, of course, I did choose to put my hand in there, so I'm going to also trace my hand. If you want to check out how it's looking, you can just turn the screen off up top to see what it looks like without even having to move your paper off of the iPad. If you're noticing it's not looking so good, well then you'll know that you need to keep going on tracing certain parts. Maybe you forgot to trace an important part because you couldn't see it. So you're going to want to click that screen off every once in a while to see how you're doing. Now, if you do make a mistake that you don't like, and maybe you were doing more than the contour lines, maybe you were doing every little detail on your face and starting to shade and color in, well, that's not what we want because we will be painting these later on. So contour lines are the simplest outlines. Think of yourself as a coloring book. If you were turning yourself into a coloring book for somebody to paint or color, you would only want to have the simplest lines. Not every little detail like every hair or tooth. It looks a little creepy. So there is a way to erase any mistakes you make, and that's by using a dry erase marker. So if I accidentally drew in every little tooth and it looked really creepy, I could take a dry erase marker and color over the area I want to erase. Say I want to redo my eyes. All I have to do is color over them with dry erase marker, take a paper towel or a wipe, and just wipe off that Sharpie. Then I'll be able to redraw with Sharpie on top. Just make sure that you're not adding water to your transparent paper because that will make it difficult to draw on again and might erase some Sharpie lines that you do like and did want to keep there. So remember, every once in a while, you're going to want to keep checking by turning that screen off. If you run out of time today before you finish, please make sure you write down your iPad number, which is located on the back of your iPad. That way you can have the same exact iPad next week and use your photo that is in the photos on that iPad to finish. Otherwise, we will be deleting our photos off the iPad. If you do have extra time after you've traced all the contour lines on your self-portrait, you can start thinking about what you want to be in your background or behind you in your self-portrait. A self-portrait usually portrays everything that you love. This is all about you. You're going to be able to use the internet on the iPads or drawing from your memory and real life to add different things that you love to your self-portrait. So say I love Disney, so something that represents that is the castle. So I look up Disney castle drawing. Why I look up the word drawing in my internet search is so that it's a very simple contour line that I can trace. If I got a real picture of it, that would take a very long time to copy or trace, as well as it would be too difficult and include too many lines. So I'm looking for very simple drawings by including the word drawing with what I look up. Of course, you need to make sure everything is school appropriate. If you are using the internet for anything that's not school appropriate, you will lose your privilege to use the iPads. And this project will be a lot more difficult to complete without an iPad. So please make sure you're using it carefully and wisely and appropriately. I'm thinking about all different kinds of things that represent me to put in my background. But I'm not just copying them right off the picture. I'm thinking of creative ways and creative placements for these different things. So now moving on to the thing I love is art. I'm super passionate about art because I teach art. I'm an artist. Because I'm your crazy art teacher, I decided to put all of these art tools into one crown on top of my head because, yep, that represents me, the crazy dressed art teacher. Then, after I finish creating what I want in my composition and where I want those certain things, I can continue on if I would like to. Maybe I move on to another hobby or something I love. I love the beach, I love longboarding, so I look up a longboard drawing. When I look up that word with drawing, it's going to make it a lot simpler to copy just those simple lines because remember, we will be painting these, so you don't want anything too complicated with too many lines. Think of it like a coloring book. You gotta leave room for the color. If you have too many details, you will have a very difficult time painting in all those little lines. Now, the next thing I love the most is my two cats. So I find an image that looks the most like them online, of course adding that word drawing, and then I'm going to go ahead and put two of them, even though it was the same image, because I have two kittens that are brothers. Remember, this is a self-portrait that represents you. If you would like to freehand draw some of those items, that is perfectly fine. Just make sure that you're including things that represent you and don't fill the space too much. You want to make sure to leave room because we will be putting a background paper underneath this as the location of where this takes place. You could fill it with your favorite foods, your favorite hobbies, favorite sports, whatever it is, make sure it represents you. But you also want to leave some clear space because we will be doing something else behind this paper. When you're done, don't forget to delete any photos unless you still need them and then return your iPad. Your finished paper will go in your table folder. I can't wait to see what you create for your self-portrait.